On this week's Goal Show, we're in Tokyo for the final of Japan's Emperor's Cup. There's Cristiano Ronaldo on his future with Real Madrid. Australia's A-League season reaches its halfway stage. What does 2013 have in store for Alessandro Del Piero as his Antipodean adventure continues? First, though, to the Japanese capital. A sellout crowd of nearly 50,000 were inside the National Stadium in Tokyo on New Year's Day as Gamba Osaka met Kashiwa Reysol in the final of the Emperor's Cup, Japan's oldest and most prestigious competition. Gamba came into the game desperate to ease the pain of their relegation from Japan's top flight in December and thought they'd taken the lead early on. Brazilian Leandro deemed to be in an offside position. Kashiwa ended the J-League season in 6th year after being crowned champions, thus missing out on a place in the 2013 AFC Champions League. Hirofumi Watanabe's header gave them hopes of earning a place through this competition as Kashiwa took a 1-0 lead into half-time. The defender could hardly have picked a better time to score his first goal of the season. Gamba rallied after the break as they attempted to salvage a miserable campaign. Shinichi Cherada came closest to holding them level, but the two-times winners failed to trouble Kashiwa's stubborn defence any further. Kashiwa holding on to win the 92nd Emperor's Cup, the first time for them in the J-League era.
Cristiano Ronaldo's uncertain future at Real Madrid is the subject that kicks off our roundup of the major news stories that have been making the headlines over the past 7 days. The Portugal star insists he won't be discussing a new contract until he's helped Real recover from a disappointing first half of the season in Spain.
We don't need to keep talking about myself signing a new contract. I will not talk about it anymore. It isn't the most important thing right now. We have to focus on the up-and-coming games. We're still fighting in La Liga, in La Copa del Rey, and UEFA Champions League. So until the end, my renewal or someone else's is not important. The important thing is winning, sticking together with the fans. So I will not talk about the contract.
La Liga's bottom side Deportivo La Coruña named Domingos Paciencia as their new head coach, replacing the sacked Jose Luis Oltra. Paciencia was previously in charge of Sporting Lisbon in his native Portugal.
With the European transfer window opening, Italy striker Giuseppe Rossi opted to end his 5-year stay with Villarreal in Spain. The 25-year-old injury-hit former Manchester United player returning home to play for Fiorentina for a fee in the region of €10 million.
Milan striker Alexandre Pato also opted to go home, signing for Corinthians from Milan. The transfer, worth around €15 million, concluded Pato's injury-hit 5-year spell in Serie A. He scored 63 goals in 150 matches in all competitions with Milan.
In England, Demba Ba was the first big name to move in the window as he switched Newcastle for Chelsea. The London club paying £7 million for the Senegalese striker who replaced Daniel Sturridge.
I think he's a good player, has proved in the Premier League that he can score goals, he has experience, and we were looking for a player that we could play right now because we have one game each 3 days, so we couldn't be waiting, and I thought it's the kind of player that in the Premier League he can do well from the first day.
Newcastle bolstered their own squad with the recruitment of Mathieu Debuchy from Lille. The French international defender joined on a 5.5-year contract for a fee believed to be in the region of £5 million.
Tottenham Hotspur announced they'd agreed a deal to sign Schalke's Germany under-21 captain Lewis Holtby in the summer. The midfielder, who has an English father, will move once his contract ends with the Bundesliga club.
That came after the news that Spurs keeper Carlo Cudicini had left the club to move to Major League Soccer. The 39-year-old Italian will play for LA Galaxy this year after ending his 12-year stay in England, which also saw him make nearly 150 appearances for Chelsea.
England international Joe Cole returned to West Ham almost a decade after leaving the London club. The 31-year-old moved on a free transfer from Liverpool. He last played for England in 2010.
One player not returning to his former club, though, is Thierry Henry. The New York Red Bull star had been strongly linked with a second loan spell at Arsenal, similar to the one he had last year. But Arsenal boss Arsene Wenger said it wouldn't be happening.
Roberto Mancini was left to fend off questions over the future of Mario Balotelli after the pair appeared to have an altercation on the training field. The Manchester City manager insists he has no problem with the enigmatic Italian striker.
We give him another 100 chance if it's possible. If I think that he can change because I'm here for this. Also, if sometimes I'm upset with him because he do everything for this. But I give him another chance, sure, because he's 22 and he can do a mistake, but this don't change.
We'll be taking a closer look at the racism story involving Milan and Kevin Prince Boateng later in the programme. But first, to a bumper New Year programme down under.
2013 was a mixed year for Brisbane Roar. A successful defence of their A-League title was followed by the departure of their coach and an indifferent start to the new campaign. Bidding to arrest their slide and start the new year on a high, they hosted Wellington Phoenix at the Suncorp Stadium. And the signs looked good for them early on when Albanian hitman Besart Berisha put them in the driving seat. With just 3 wins in 12, Wellington were equally as keen to start the new year with a bang. Jeremy Brockie's superb equaliser gave them hope of ending the day in the top 6. A 10th goal of the season for the New Zealand international striker. It was 1-1 at the break, but the scenario changed again when Brisbane re-established their lead. Ben Halloran on the mark this time as the home side moved towards back-to-back wins for the first time this term.
Really good technique across his body. Super setup by Berisha.
Both sides were to end the game with 10 men. Wellington's Tyler Boyd was the first to go after his lunging challenge on Shane Stefanuto earned him a second yellow. Then 5 minutes from time, Brisbane's James Donachie received his marching orders after a 2-footed tackle on Vince Laya.
Strong into that challenge and he comes out of it as well. It's going to be a yellow card out for Donachie. Now when the referee has a look at his...
The scoreline remained unaltered, however, as Brisbane leapfrogged their opponents in the table, continuing their resurgence under interim coach Mike Mulvey.
For Phoenix, no there isn't, no time. Brisbane Roar have done it the hard way, but Brisbane Roar have recorded a second.
Melbourne Heart were looking to climb off the bottom of the table as they faced the Newcastle Jets at Amy Park. 3 straight losses as St John Aloisi's side finished 2012 at the foot of the table. But it didn't take the Heart long to get 2013 off to the right start. Gol Mabratu racing on to Josip Tadic's pass and beating Mark Birighitti to put the hosts ahead after just 6 minutes. The lead wouldn't last long, though, as Newcastle earned a penalty 10 minutes later when Andrew Redmayne brought down Ryan Griffiths.
It's just a yellow card for Redmayne. Maroney beaten, Redmayne beaten. Clear.
The striker picked himself up to dispatch the spot kick, his 5th goal of the season, drawing the Jets level. But only 7 minutes later, the match took another turn. Jonathan Germano pouncing on Birighitti's fumble, only to be taken down.
Another one's given. Well, robust from Gerhard.
Croatian Tadic took responsibility, and he made no mistake as the Heart took a 2-1 lead into half-time. The last occasion these sides had met, it had finished 3-3, but there was to be no repeat of that in a dour second half. Chances were few and far between at both ends. Emil Heskey's header, the closest Newcastle came to producing an equaliser. 2-1 was how it finished, Melbourne Heart starting 2013 in ideal fashion as they climbed off the bottom of the table. Newcastle's inconsistent form in danger of hampering their bid for a high placing in the final series.
That three-game losing sequence and start 2013 on a high.
Central Coast Mariners were top of the pile at the turn of the year. They were looking to maintain their perfect home record at home to Perth Glory. Michael McClinchy had the first sight of goal in New South Wales, but Perth keeper Danny Vukovic was on hand to clear the danger. It was Perth who fashioned the best chance of the first half, but that was squandered by their usually clinical Kiwi star Shane Smeltz.
Oh, how did he miss?
And Glory were nearly made to pay just before the break. Joshua Rose got in behind the visiting defence, but his cross was again well dealt with by Vukovic.
And Liam Miller completes the tidy up.
The Mariners came out fighting in the second period and got the breakthrough after 68 minutes.
That cross might drop for Abini. Bernie Abini scores. The deadlock is broken.
Nigerian-born Bernie Abini shrugged off Scott Jameson to fire home his third goal of the season, with a quarter of the game still to go. Abini appearing lucky to get away unpunished, though, with TV replay suggesting he fouled Jameson and controlled the ball with his hand in the build-up. The visitors' hopes all but ended when Bas van der Brink was sent off. Central Coast's unbeaten home record intact as they chase a first A-League title since their inauguration in 2004.
Adelaide United welcomed Sydney FC, hoping to end a two-game losing streak and close the gap on A-League leaders Central Coast. It didn't take long for the Reds to stamp their authority on the struggling Sky Blues here. Marcelo Carusha providing the cross for Dario Vidicic to head Adelaide into the lead on 18 minutes. It would only get worse for the visitors, who were without Alessandro Del Piero. Seb Ryle's clumsy challenge on Bruce Jitty, resulting in a penalty.
Well, he looked like he clipped him.
Vidicic slamming home to put Adelaide 2 up after just half an hour.
Number 2 for the night. And the referee, Joe Gillett, perfectly placed.
Adelaide were dominating the match, and it was no surprise when they got a third midway through the second half. Ian Ramsey won't have many easier finishes than this after Jitty's initial shot had been parried into his path. 3-0 is how it would finish. Adelaide ensuring they started the new year well in contention for honours. Elsewhere, during round 14 of the season, Shinji Ono inspired the Western Sydney Wanderers. The Japanese star scoring twice against the Melbourne Victory as the Wanderers reached the halfway stage of their debut A-League season. Coming up in part 2 of this week's Goal Show, Milan's winter training schedule is marred by racist abuse. And more from Down Under as the race for a place in the series finals intensifies. Welcome back to this week's Goal Show. Still to come, Sydney FC head west as they look to begin 2013 on a positive footing. And Central Coast take on the champions as they bid to stay top of the pile. It was supposed to be a low-key friendly ahead of the resumption of the Serie A season in Italy. Instead, Milan's meeting with 4th Division side Pro Patria in the Lombardy region of northern Italy was to make headlines worldwide for the wrong reasons. The issue of racism has been high on the agenda in recent times, with several high-profile incidents raising questions over the way it's policed by football's governing bodies. The tiny Stadio Carlo Speroni in the city of Busto Arsizio was to become the scene of the latest such incident. With fans hurling abuse at Milan's black players during the game, midfielder Kevin Prince Boateng was seen to kick the ball towards the crowd in anger at the chanting aimed in his direction and his teammates. The former Portsmouth and Tottenham player then walked off, causing the game to be abandoned before half-time. Boateng later said he'd complained to the referee 3 times before leaving the pitch and insisted he'd walk off again in a match, regardless of its importance. Milan's owner Silvio Berlusconi praised Boateng for his actions. Pro Patria president Petrio Vavasori attempted to repair his club's image by declaring the stadium open to all people of colour at the team's next fixture. That came as the mayor of Busto Aziz said his administration would sue those responsible for the chanting. A 20-year-old man admitted responsibility, with investigations continuing into the unsavoury scenes. FIFA and UEFA have previously warned against players walking off the field of play. Sepp Blatter insists there needs to be tougher punishments brought in, such as points deductions, in order to deal with the issue of racism. His comments followed the incident involving Milan, which has seen the Italian Football Federation also launch an inquiry. Milan's players wore anti-racism slogans on Sunday ahead of their win against Siena in Serie A.
We head back to Australia now and to Newcastle, where the Jets hosted high-flying Adelaide United, looking for a turnaround in their fortunes. Having lost 6 of their last 8 games, Newcastle had fallen to 8th in the league, just 3 points ahead of bottom club Sydney FC. And they nearly went behind just 5 minutes in, but Adelaide's top scorer, Dario Vidicic, could only shoot straight at Mark Birighitti in the Jets' goal. At the other end, Ryan Griffiths stung the palms of Eugene Galakovic as the home side went in search of the opener.
Ryan Griffiths with the snapshot.
Adelaide rode their luck further shortly before half-time when Griffiths again had a shot on goal, which was hacked clear by a rattled United defence. Immediately after the restart, that man Griffiths again brought the best out of Galakovic, tipping the ball around the post to keep his side level. The Newcastle onslaught was constant, though. Adam Taggart denied his first goal of the campaign here. However, they could not make the pressure count, and the game remained goalless, a point for the home side doing little to halt their slide.
Newcastle Jets and Adelaide United. It finishes 0-0.
On the south coast, Amy Park in Melbourne saw Wellington travel to take on the Victory. The home side, victors in 2 of their previous 3 league games, looking to continue that momentum against a Wellington team struggling at the wrong end of the table. And they duly took the lead shortly before half-time. Argentine Marcos Flores scoring his 2nd of the season. His only other goal also came against Wellington back in November. The advantage for Melbourne Victory was doubled shortly after half-time when Marco Rojas was the recipient of some good fortune. The New Zealand international left with the simplest of tap-ins to register his 10th goal of the season. Mark Milligan almost made the game safe just after the hour mark, his shot grazing the woodwork for the home side. A rare foray into the box saw Wellington's Cameron Lindsay call Victory goalkeeper Nathan Coe into action late on. But it was in vain as Victory held on for a comfortable 2-0 win, which saw them maintain pace with the leaders.
As Wellington's search for a win in Melbourne goes on. Full-time scoreline.
Last season's A-League runners-up Perth Glory hosted a Sydney side desperate for results. Sydney were looking to the return of star striker Alessandro Del Piero to help kickstart their campaign following his absence in their 3-0 defeat to Adelaide. But there was little Del Piero nor Vedran Janjatovic could do to prevent this header from Shane Smeltz. The 31-year-old New Zealander netting his 3rd goal of the season, sending the hosts in front 5 minutes before half-time. After the interval, however, Sydney would draw level in a similar fashion to the opener. Australia international Jason Collina was left unmarked to open his Sydney account with a diving header, his first goal in more than 2 years following a long-term injury. With the scores tied and just 10 minutes of normal time remaining, a dazzling run from Travis Dodd set up Shane Smeltz to steer Perth ahead once more from the 18-yard line. However, their lead was short-lived, Del Piero proving his worth, providing an inch-perfect ball for Sebastian Ryle to convert from close range 8 minutes from time. Sydney extending their unbeaten record against Perth to 10 games, with a deserved share of the points.
Coming off the back of 2 consecutive wins, Brisbane Roar made the 1,000-mile journey to Melbourne Heart, with high hopes of making it 3 in a row. However, those hopes were hit as Heart's David Williams fired the hosts in front in the 13th minute.
David Williams.
The striker hammering home his first goal in 9 appearances.
What about the vision and just the awareness of Garcia now as this
And 10 minutes before the interval, the Heart doubled their lead. This time, Josip Tadic finding himself on the end of a clever through ball from Michael Morone. After the restart, the goals continued as Heart built up a healthy lead. Brazilian midfielder Fred handed the opportunity to capitalise on some suspect defending from Brisbane with almost an hour gone. However, Melbourne weren't to have everything their own way, with Williams seeing red for a reckless foul on Ivan Franjic. His dismissal sparked a resurgence from the visitors, Brisbane being awarded a penalty for a foul on Ben Halloran.
And this time Alan Milliner has got it spot on, I think.
Up step Besart Berisha, offering a route back into the game for the champions.
Berisha scores for Brisbane. Berisha.
Within 2 minutes, a dramatic comeback looked like it might be on the cards for Brisbane.
The unlikely comeback is...
Berisha again on hand to fire in his second past Andrew Redmayne. But despite their best efforts, the away side failed to find an equaliser.
Leaders Central Coast travelled to play the Western Sydney Wanderers, aiming to consolidate top spot. On their last meeting in the opening fixture of the season, nothing could separate the two teams in a goalless draw. However, this surge from Wanderers midfielder Jason Trefiro demonstrated the hosts' intent to attack from the outset. Yet it was the visitors who would go on to break the deadlock in the 42nd minute. A slick 1-2 between Adam Kwasnic and Danny McBreen, allowing the 35-year-old to score past a stranded Ante Kovic. McBreen demonstrating why he's still one of the most feared strikers in the league, steering in his 11th goal of the regular season. After the interval, the Wanderers, chasing a 6th unbeaten game, suffered further problems as Trefiro was given his marching orders for a second bookable offence. Pitted against the 10 men, a second goal always looked inevitable for the in-form Mariners, and it came in the dying embers of the match. McBreen once more finding himself in the right place at the right time, capitalising on a miscommunication in the Wanderers' back line. A bizarre ending to a convincing away performance from the title favourites. A perfect start to the new year that they hope will reap their first ever A-League title. So this is how the standings look after the bumper festive schedule. Graham Arnold's Mariners have some breathing space between themselves and second-placed Adelaide, a lead of 4 points. Melbourne Victory's 2-0 triumph over Wellington Phoenix saw them rise to third. At the other end of the standings, the return of Alessandro Del Piero from injury wasn't enough for Sydney FC, and they remain rooted to the bottom of the table.
Melbourne Victory's Kiwi star Marco Rojas is the latest winner of our Goal of the Week vote. His first goal in his side's 3-2 win against the Newcastle Jets earned nearly 70% of the votes in our global poll on goal.com. Coming up, 5 more goals for you to choose from. First up, Hirafumi Watanabe's header in the Emperor's Cup final. The defender, an unlikely match winner for Kashiwa Reysol. Goal 2 is Jeremy Brockie's blockbuster in Brisbane for Wellington Phoenix. Wellington are on the receiving end of goal 3. Marcos Flores' instinctive volley for Melbourne Victory. Goal 4 is this superbly crafted goal by the A-League's top team at the moment, Central Coast, scored by their leading marksman, English-born striker Daniel McBreen. And finally, goal 5, another Kiwi. This time, Shane Smeltz scoring for Perth against Sydney FC. vote for your favourite goal, simply head to the video section on goal.com. The winner will be announced on Friday. On next week's Goal Show, we'll be looking ahead to the 29th Africa Cup of Nations. And we'll be in Zurich as FIFA announced the winner of the 2012 Ballon d'Or award.